Hello, my guest today is Lance Patterson. Lance is a seasoned senior executive with over 25 years of experience in global brand and marketing strategy across luxury wholesale, retail, and digital sectors. As the CEO of Juice Beauty, he oversees brand development, marketing, sales, finance, operations, and product. Under his leadership, Juice Beauty has significantly increased its market share in the clean beauty sector. Previously, Lance was the CEO of Kate Somerville Skincare, where he revitalized the brand's identity and digital presence, regaining lost market share. He laid successful sale and acquisition processes. Hello, Lance. So nice to be with you today.
Hi, great to be with you also.
I wanted to start this interview by tapping into your journey up until this point in time. Talk to us about who you are, what you've done, and what your leadership style is. Let's start there.
I think that my, as a person, as a leader, it's obviously evolved over the years. And I think I've been fortunate to have some successes, but also some big failures. And I think sometimes the failures can define you more than the success. I was lucky to be able to progressively or step further into my career and been promoted in increasing roles of responsibility, and I've been lucky on that. And part of that is also a gift, and other parts are a curse because I lack patience sometimes. And without that ability to be patient, you can maybe move a little too fast. And sometimes there can be some dead bodies. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but people get in your way, and you maybe don't handle it the best way. So over the years, I've been fortunate to be exposed to large organizations and both vertically integrated matrix organizations also, and small businesses. And through all of those, I've been able to adjust myself. And I think the biggest defining moment was when I got fired in 2007 from a job. And that was really the catalyst for change for me, and helped me start to go on a journey of understanding who I wanted to be and what I didn't want to be. And so I would say my leadership style today is maybe best defined as being an orchestra conductor. I'm not necessarily playing the music, I'm not writing the music, but I am trying to be there to keep everyone on tune, on note. And
Mhm.
when, people veer off note, it's my role to help bring them back. Although sometimes going off note can also bring about a new tune. So you have to be open to that, and aware of what's happening.
Mhm. Yeah, that's incredible. Getting fired, that is a catalyst for a lot of people. I think that it's a blessing in most cases.
In most cases, not all cases, I would imagine, but yes, in my case, I was lucky.
So that's fantastic. And yeah, I think I've always said that success loves speed.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I really appreciate your ability to move through things quickly. And though you may call it lack of patience, I think it's really a success attribute,
Hmm.
because most successful people make quick decisions. And yes, there are sometimes some casualties along the way, but I appreciate that about you. And of course, your track records, your track record proves that you really are doing something right.
I hope so. I think, if you surround yourself with really great people and they challenge you and you allow that to happen, and I think, that enables you to, you know, kind of have a view, a wider view
Hmm.
than if it was just your own singular view. And I think firing, I was more singular focused, and
Hmm.
post, I probably went the other extreme. But now I feel that, it's really good to be able to take it all in. And it's not just me taking it in, it's, my team taking it in, and listening and supporting them helps me move forward, and not have those casualties,
Yeah.
as often.
Yeah. So how do you, you said that you have the right people around you. Tell us about that. How do you discern who's the right person to surround yourself with, to collaborate with, etc. in your leadership?
Um, I think that it's I'm good at a lot of things, but not necessarily an expert of a lot of things, let's say.
Hmm.
So I understand. Okay, there's a saying, you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And I am pretty open to the fact that I don't know what I don't know.
Hmm.
And the way I figure things out is through asking a ton of questions, being a little bit detailed, and therefore bringing in people that do know what I don't know. So, they can be great at what they do. And then, there's the chief merchant of Sephora, her name is Priya, globally. And I've worked with Priya for, God, well over 20 years in different, as I've been in different brands. And she always says, the tide, when one rises, basically all rise with it, right? So um, I think that when you have great people around you and you identify where you need to fill gaps, both in your business and in your own leadership and your own knowledge gaps,
Hmm.
everyone rises with that. So that's kind of how I look for people. And when I'm searching out people, I think there's two very important things. One is, of course, their skill set, but usually if they come to me, by then they have the skills.
Hmm.
It's not that I'm trying to meet you to know that 2 + 2. It's really understanding your ability to be fearless, to, be okay to fall down and fail,
Hmm.
and, have a great attitude and be resilient. And those things I think are really hard to
Hmm.
possess and equally hard to find. And when you do find that right mix, it's really just an amazing combination and leads to hopefully success.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think skill set for whatever it is that you're hiring your leadership team for, whether it's marketing, sales, etc. It is that character. It is that the inner strength that matters, right?
Yes, for
Yes,
sure.
yes,
You
and
have to have that confidence, and you have to be able to, or thing is, I find leadership team, I do think they can struggle sometimes.
Mhm.
And because if they're not having been given the chance to really step out front and take those risks and know that it's okay not to always be right, or it's okay to fail. It's all about getting back up and doing it again and learning from those mistakes. And that can be sometimes a challenge, especially building a new leadership team.
Course. And of course, having you have such a growth mindset that people can grow into the person that they want to be based on the vision that leadership sets, that really paves the way for them to really rise up to what we need, right?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say is the hardest lesson you've ever learned in leadership since your journey after the 2007 catalyst?
Um, I think I'm still learning and I'm still struggling a bit in certain areas. And I think the biggest is finding the balance of of sometimes you just know the way to
Mm-hmm.
go
Mm-hmm.
and you want to just say, oh, let's just do that because it's the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't really help people grow.
Right.
And and therefore sometimes you have to keep your mouth shut and maybe even see that it's going to go wrong, but just be ready to be there and help pick back up the pieces and, you know, guide and take it to where it can go. And
Mm-hmm.
I hopefully that individual will have seen on their own and learned. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, otherwise people don't, I do find when I say, let's just do that, people don't tend to embrace it as strongly. And
Yeah.
therefore, if it doesn't work, there's an undertone of basically, well, you told me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not that ownership. So I think that's something that I've learned and I still am working on finding the balance on. Does that make sense? Is that,
Yeah, so let me make sure I understand. So it's a balance of whether you tell them what to do versus you help them understand what the next steps are.
yeah, yeah,
Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, I think that that's a really critical point in
yes,
leadership because you're right. You're right. It's when you tell people what to do, there is that undertone, well, I'm not, it's really not coming from me. So the ownership and responsibility isn't coming from a place of where I'm going to be accountable, etc. It's just oh, this is another thing on my to-do list, right?
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, that's an important lesson for leadership.
Yes, yes. But sometimes it's frustrating also because you can feel like we could go faster or whatever, but well, in the end it's maybe not gonna, maybe it'll solve the initial problem or get you where you need to go initially, but maybe long term it's not going to, or that individual isn't going to develop and grow into an even stronger leader if I'm there just saying do this, do that, or go this way, go that way. But I
Yeah.
do sometimes look and see some of the incredibly successful people and that are out there, and especially on social media, and sometimes it's probably all
Mm-hmm.
some of it's smoke and mirrors, but you know people that are super aggressive and very directive and really pushy. You're like, wow, they're the ones growing these businesses to hundreds of millions of dollars from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you stand back and you're like, God, why? Oh, maybe I need to do that. And maybe I should be that way. But I learned, as I said, from the firing and as I go forward, and even as I fail sometimes as a leader now, that not bringing people along is not going to make me feel good either. And I
Yeah.
just can't be that destructive force that takes no prisoners. I went down the rabbit hole of watching the film Showtime series about the Uber
Mm-hmm.
founder, Travis Kalanick.
Yes.
I was up till 2 a.m. the other night because I just kept watching. And it's super fascinating because he was so single-minded.
Hmm.
And, it's the perfect example of, someone that went from zero to a billion in a, very short period of time with a take no prisoners approach. But along the way, there's a ton of dead bodies and there's a lot of hurt feelings. And, there's a lot of cheating, if you want to call it that, and unfair play. And I don't think as an individual, I would ever want to be that way. So maybe it takes a little longer. Maybe I would say I was slow to develop in my career. And I'm an older CEO, I'm an older dad, even. And I think, I've learned that that's just okay, and I'm okay with that.
You know what? I love that about you, Lance. I think that there's so much to be said about compassionate leadership.
Hmm.
And in fact, research shows that compassionate leaders really do finish on top. And
Hmm.
if you particularly if you invest in your team and bring them along in a growth minded way where they invest in themselves in terms of resources and develop that part of them that needs it, so that they can have that inner motivation, so that they can have that inner strength. And that really adds, I always say peak performance without peak awareness is really leads to burnout.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really raising the awareness of the team really helps them see things differently, see things in themselves they didn't know they had in them. uh,
Correct.
so I think I love that about you. I think that that is such a powerful way to lead, and
Hmm.
and being dedicated to really nurturing the people around you is commendable. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that's what's contributed to some of the companies you've grown sixfold.
Well, hopefully, I would say that I was very, very lucky to convince a few people to join. And I think those people were really what got us to where we got. And I'll be forever thankful to them, whether they worked for me or as a cross-functional partner or a few of my bosses. I've lucked out in a lot of ways.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's it's amazing. It's really who you surround yourself with and who's going to the through the journey with you and elevate with you, because they all contribute to your success.
Correct.
It's so important. So let's talk about what are some of the learnings that you would like leaders today know? What are critical for leaders to know right now in this environment, in your opinion?
Yes. Well, I think we'd all agree the environment has shifted quite a bit over the last years. And I think there's been so many moments in culture that have, if that's the right word, or society that have come about and really shifted a lot of what maybe was okay
Mm-hmm.
and is not okay now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of those things is not seeing gender, color, faith.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's seeing an individual
Mm-hmm.
and appreciating who that individual is and what their beliefs are, even if
Mm-hmm.
they don't align necessarily with yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, in my when I was at Penhaligon's, one of our values as an organization was united in our individuality. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important. I really do believe that having a diverse group of people
Mm-hmm.
minds, yes, are important, but also backgrounds and, upbringing and, socioeconomic, all those things I think really do add to success
Mm-hmm.
as an organization. because
Mm-hmm.
you're representing your customer basically. And I think that's really, really important. I think um, being okay with not being right all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think letting others be right is
Mm-hmm.
okay. You know, you can't, yeah, you like I was saying earlier, you need others to come to their own mind
Mm-hmm.
decision, and
Mm-hmm.
I can just guide them, and hopefully, of course, sometimes I'm going to be the one to take the final call,
Mm-hmm.
but it's important that everyone comes along, because when they
Mm-hmm.
don't, it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be ownable in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think what else is really important is empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I might go too far on that. Um, I think really having empathy for others and their struggles
Mm-hmm.
is important. And I maybe overly identify sometimes and simply even sympathize. And that I think is another important thing, is to be able to balance that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't, not everyone is going to like me,
Mm-hmm.
and not everyone is going to agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be okay with that. That's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to really be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is listening to the customer, the end user.
Mm-hmm.
Whether there's two types of, for us, there's two types of customers. There's the consumer that's using and buying our product, and then there's the customer, which is buying and selling our product to the
Mm-hmm.
customer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you really need to listen to both.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't, that's not gonna be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, sometimes the customer or the account, they
Mm-hmm.
think they know, maybe they don't. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a real balance there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But on the consumer side, when you hear from just a few people, people say, oh, well, that's not a significant number. The fact is, if the product rates a 4.3 or something, there's something wrong. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to understand why there's that problem. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be just a handful of people, but those handful of people are going to help spread that word.
Yes.
So really listening, I think, to voices um,
Mm-hmm.
is incredibly important too. So I guess those are some of the things I think that are important today.
Yeah, so I'm going to recap and please add if I missed anything. Okay, I just want to make sure I highlight some because these were some gems for people to learn. One is diversity. We hear so much about diversity, but I love the way you described it, Lance, in that you want to. It's not only important to see people for who they are, acknowledge and honor them on your team and in your organization, but also the people who use your products. That's such a sensitive
Correct.
and beautiful way to that's such a beautiful lens to see
Yes.
things through because and really attributes to your success because when you have that kind of a to me that's really an empathetic approach to diversity in that it is so important, so critical to have different opinions, different ways in which the world occurs to people on your team and in your organization, and seeing that and being able to participate with that. It's very beautiful and I would like to see more leaders articulate it as beautiful as you did, not being right, not being so stuck on being right. I think that's a lot of leaders get stuck on that. I think that's a very important point. You don't have to be right all the time. Uh and uh and the other thing you said about having people create their own mindset about things, their own ideas, having that as a way, as an attitude in leadership is very important. Of course, empathy, Empathy is one of the most important leadership skills. It really is. We teach empathy. We have a whole track on how to practice empathy because you're right. A lot of people do sympathize instead of empathize, and empathy leads to compassion. Compassion is empathy in action. And it's such a beautiful way to lead. And I think that more people need to really understand empathy and being self-empathetic first. Having self-empathy is important because of the next point you mentioned is that not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But being okay with that is hard. It's easier said than done because we all
it
have
is.
feelings. We all feel things viscerally, and listening to customers and end users. I think that's really, you're in a unique position where you serve both, and it's important for leaders who are in the same position to really listen to both, because even if it's a small percentage of your client base, to your point, those people are going to share their experiences with others, and that matters, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that point? Because I think those were some excellent points.
I think yeah, there was two other things as you were talking, and I was actually writing down for my own little notes. The I think truthfulness and candor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I am incredibly forthright, honest, and I think that that's on the truthfulness side, meaning there's if you're doing things honestly, you're not trying to hide anything, you're not playing, and it's not about optics. And I think that that is greatly appreciated by your team
Mm-hmm.
and more even importantly, your bosses, whether that
Mm-hmm.
be the owners or whoever you report to.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very truthful. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to hold back, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've gotten better at how I communicate it. And maybe my bluntness is a little less blunt, but being truthful is really important. And on the candor side, I know there's a trend and people talk about radical candor.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say radical candor used to be my philosophy, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that that got me in trouble. And I because I think radical candor can take you can also be hurtful candor.
Yeah.
And so I find I being direct is important and
Mm-hmm.
not beating around the bush, you know? It's
Mm-hmm.
just how if you approach it through empathy,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you
Mm-hmm.
can, and truthfulness,
Mm-hmm.
you can be candid and
Mm-hmm.
not crush someone's hopes and dreams. But you shouldn't, if you're going to lose your job, you should because of your performance or because of something, hopefully there's been discussions and
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like, listen, you're going to lose your job if you don't change. It's just like, you're talking to people and bringing them along, like, this got to change, or let's fix this, or you're doing this great. And what about that? Do this differently, those types of things. So I think candor is really important in finding that and doing it empathetically, not being overly aggressive jerk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear that. Now, I think the note that you're hitting on is authenticity, being authentic.
Yeah, probably that's a better way of saying it. That's a short.
Right?
Yeah.
So because you are truthful, you're being true to yourself, you're being true to the situation, you're open, and you're delivering and honoring the other person and the reverence of the other person and being direct yet sensitive and not berailing them or derailing them or anything of that nature, but really, even if it's negative feedback or constructive feedback, you're doing it in such a way that's direct enough that you're not wasting anybody's time, yet sensitive to their
Correct.
feelings and emotions.
And that goes across also to the end consumer. And
Mm-hmm.
I think if you were to look at social media from a brand's perspective, the most successful posts typically have some authenticity to them. And I think your storytelling also has to come from a place of authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I don't know if you've followed the recent trend of the
Mm-hmm.
Birkin bag on Walmart.com.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's this big argument about, people trying to fake it or, oh, how dare they? But I just think that's someone being authentic. Like, hey, I'm not going to buy, whether I can afford or not, a $30,000 bag. But
Yeah.
this bag is great looking and I'm going to carry it and I'm going to be proud of it. So
Yes.
I think there's an authenticity to that. And I
Yeah.
think that's what resonates with people today, is that authenticity.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's true with the newer generation. They crave authenticity. They want to be authentic. And when you talk about authenticity, of course, everyone thinks that they're authentic. Yes, I am who I am, but there's so many different layers within a person's being, within a
Correct.
person's beingness that
Correct.
that deserves that, inner work to get to that inner discovery to get to so that they can unveil and whatever it is. I think it's, whether you want to pay $30,000 for a bag or $30, it's a person's choice. And people
Correct.
just love to criticize.
Correct.
And it's and I think that we need to your point, empathize more than we criticize.
Correct. Correct.
Right.
100% agree.
So I just wanted to ask one other question on these where in this realm of questioning before moving on to future pacing. And what would you do differently if you were looking back? Is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, yeah, always. There's always something I would do differently. I guess, you can't change the past, so it's all about learning for the future. And I guess, you know, I would be okay with being okay and being me.
Mm-hmm.
I, for so long, was embarrassed of me, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, and I think that slowed me down. And I think also put up walls, and I didn't maybe know how to address things so well, and therefore that became aggression instead. And so I think really just being okay with me and, accepting me, and if other people were okay with it or not. And I think I would have liked to have done that sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And I want my team to feel that way, and even my son to feel that way. I want him to be able to just be him. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what other people say. Just do what you think is the best. As long as you're laying the groundwork and you're authentic and, you're not being vindictive or, unnecessarily cruel or something. Well, not that you ever should be cruel. I think those things, can really help you move forward at maybe a faster pace than I maybe moved forward.
Yeah, I hear that because it's a path I walked as well, being embarrassed of who I am for a long time. So I empathize with that. I think that is to walk through life truly owning who you are, having the ability to do that. But it's not easy, Lance. Would you say that's easy? It's not easy because society is so, and if you allow it more so, but it takes a great deal of wisdom to get to a point where you're able to be your authentic self unapologetically.
Yes, I agree. It's a
Yeah.
journey every day. It's never gonna, I don't know that I'll ever get there, but I definitely don't want to be the one, that worked too much, didn't spend time with family, and wishes they had have done something or just was okay with being themselves when I'm ready to move on from this world. I
Yeah. Yeah.
want
It's
that to be
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
regrets.
Yeah, being present and in the moment, right?
Sorry, I don't know if yeah.
Yeah, you cut out for a minute.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, being present.
Oh,
Those
sorry. I'm having a bit of a internet moment.
okay. It's all right.
Is it back?
It's back now. Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, good. Okay,
Okay.
so I just want to make sure that we didn't miss
Yes.
anything. So just repeat the last part you just said.
Just being, just I don't want to, what you read about or people you hear podcasts. What's the one thing people say on their deathbed or when they're old and passing, and it's regrets.
Yes.
And I don't want those regrets to be something that I have that I know today I can impact in a positive
Yes.
way. That's
Yes.
basically it.
Yes. Living a life that without regrets. That you don't want to regret the. I think the most common thing that people say in their deathbed is that they weren't true to themselves.
Correct. And that's what I don't want.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's important too. I think that so many of these things, it may sound like that people have heard it before, but hearing it from different people in a different way, in a through a lens where things are viewed differently is really important. Repetition is important to hear these different things from people who are successful, who are walking through life and are authentic and really uh, analyzing and wanting to live their lives intentionally so that they are true to themselves and everybody that they're with, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So let's look into the future as a CEO. What is your, and this is a good time of year. This is the beginning of a brand new year, 2025. What is your vision for this year?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have an email in my outbox that I wrote to my organization about that. And I've been thinking about, what we learned, what happened in the last year, and how we're going to apply that to the upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what, we spent as an organization last year really understanding our brand, what the brand stands for, what the consumer thinks about the brand, what's happening in the market, and where we want the brand to be in the next years to come.
Mm-hmm.
So we've invested a lot in that. And
Mm-hmm.
this year it's about execution. It's
Mm,
about executing on all the work we've done in the last 12 months
mm,
to really take our brand, Juice Beauty, to the next level and hopefully regain market share and continue to build and rebuild the brand equity that over the years has gotten a little bit lost. So yeah,
that's
execution.
execution. That is a great word. I love the word execution, don't you? It's such an action word. So it's 12 months in the making, and this is the year that it's going to happen. So let's fast forward to 2025. What would it be? What would it look like at the end of December 2025? What would things look like where you say we did it?
I definitely won't be ready to say we did it in 12 months because I think it's going to be a long journey. But I think that there's, a few milestones
Mm-hmm.
that um, we will be looking towards. And one is our engagement with our community, both, building that community and, engaging with them so that
Mm-hmm.
we're not speaking at them, we're speaking with them. I
Mm-hmm.
think that'll be really important to have seen. I think we are relaunching every product um, in, in new design, new names, same great formulas, but in most cases, but you know, having that hit the market and there be a positive reception to it,
Mm-hmm.
I think will be very satisfying. And the ultimate outcome of that and, you know, engaging with the community will be growth.
Mm,
So I think if we can, we've not been across all channels growing, and I think if we can get across all channels growing, I think that will have been a super satisfying and successful year.
mm-hmm. Wow, that's quite remarkable. I love the community component because that's so huge. I think that community is your community is really the name of the game for a lot of organizations. And I'm glad
Absolutely.
that you're nurturing that. And I love speaking with them, not at them.
Yes.
That's really important to get them engaged, get them really embracing the brand. And how exciting that you're relaunching everything in a new design. That's fantastic. And with this
Yes.
great formula.
It's,
So I
yeah,
think,
all of the new assets have started. All the new assets have started to roll out, and our, you know, everything goes full steam ahead in a few more weeks,
mhm.
and we leave the old behind, and we're looking just to the future. So it's really an exciting moment for Juice Beauty.
That's fun. That's I share that excitement. So where can people find Juice Beauty products?
Yes. Well, Ulta is our biggest customer in America. And then, of course, juicebeauty.com and amazon.com. Those are our three, you know, core customers. And then we're in Canada, Sephora, and lots of other places internationally. But in America, Ulta and jb.com or juicebeauty.com are really the core.
Okay. All right. Ulta is one of my stopping grounds. So
Good.
I go to Ulta.
Please.
I go to Sephora too in in United States. You're in Europe, but not here.
Yeah, we're not here. So tell them, email, where's Juice Beauty? So
We're
hopefully,
going
maybe
to.
in the next 12 to 18 months.
You'll get into Sephora too. Yeah, for sure. We were in Paris a couple of years ago and we went into Sephora in Paris. What a great, I mean, they have several different locations.
Yeah, yeah.
As
But the
well
one
as
on the flagship on Champs-Élysées is it's astounding. We're not there, but we're in Sephora Canada and Sephora Asia and
okay.
Southeast Asia. So those are, you know, and doing very, very well. So hopefully we can spread the love in America, Sephora, someday soon.
Yes, amen to that. Let's do it. Let's do it. So what is the most important thing for you in this coming year?
Not freaking out. I think just being calm and have patience and stay focused. You know,
Mhm.
don't let the noise distract.
What do you think? I mean, you've had a pretty remarkable journey of a lot of different things that you've been involved with, successes. We talked about some of the failures, which has been probably the catalyst, etc. What would you say? What would be the pinnacle of your success? What do you think that would be? I mean, you've done some remarkable things already, but what would you think is the would be the pinnacle? What is the mark that you want to, what is your legacy?
Ooh, that's a big one. I don't know if I'm ready to say what it is. I mean, I don't know. I have never thought of that. But I guess what I hope is people just say, you know, he's done a good job and he's, you know, not a bad person. He's a nice person. I don't know. I need
It,
to think on that one. It's a good one.
yeah. Yeah, it's a good contemplative process for a thoughtful leader like you. I
Yes.
think that you put a lot of thought and heart into your work. It's
Yes.
important to you to take care of the people around you and your clients and your customers. And so it's a good thing to kind of contemplate. So yeah, let's move on. How would it change? How would if you had, for example, I mean, I know that authenticity is really important to you. Um, and and how do you think that if everyone in your team was authentic, how would that change the direction, speed, or both of the outcomes of where you're going this year?
I think it would bring alignment, break silos, and make it even more fun. You know, I think sometimes the puffery, as you might say, is just unneeded, or the people feeling threatened, or that they have to be right. I just think if we could all just let it go and just know we're all in the journey to that's what I hope to be able to do, and I work towards doing, is, bringing together an organization and having them work collectively, clear on what the mission is and the organization, and walls.
Mm-hmm.
And even in small businesses, you get those walls.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love them to not be there, because I think it's just a waste of energy and time. We're all here to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We want to achieve the same goals.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not a failure as a person because maybe something didn't go right.
Mm-hmm.
Just learn from it and move on. So I would say that's, really would be a game changer.
I love that. I think that's a great place to stop, because I think that that's really, I always say there's no such thing as failure. You either learn or you win.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And hopefully the wins are more than the learns,
Yeah.
but they do support each other in a great deal.
Yeah, and I think that it's okay if the learning is more. I embrace the learning. I've learned so much as a CEO myself. I mean, I've learned so much.
Hmm.
Each lesson has made me a better person,
Absolutely.
a better empathizer.
Exactly.
you know
Exactly.
so so yeah, thank you so much for sharing your life with us, your journey with us, your lessons, and your words of wisdom. I really appreciate you, Lance.
Oh, you're very kind, Kathy. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you a really great new year. And don't hesitate to follow me on Instagram at Lance Juice CEO.
I'm going to we're going to put all the right links. Lance
Okay.
Juice CEO.
Yeah, I think what is it? I should know my Lance Juice _ CEO. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that for sure.
All right.